in Göbekli Tepe, in Enclosure D, something was published in the mid-2000s, and it was by Pablo de Bertolis of Trieste University. And he basically did some acoustic research inside Enclosure D, which has this very interesting geometry. It's kind of elliptical, but it's also got this very special geometry we looked at. And he also did, while he was there, and this is when Klaus Schmidt was the head archaeologist, they found within it a spiraling magnetic anomaly coming up out of the ground in between the two central T-pillars, and he freaked out. So he went around all the different angles and got the same thing from all the different angles to prove his point.
Wow.
And so they were building on top of a magnetic anomaly, which we know can affect consciousness. We know. So the reason they chose the little odd, it's really kind of bizarre location when you look at like the middle of nowhere up on these kind of hills, in these stony hills. It makes you question what they must have recognized some kind of special quality about it to choose that site. But also, if you know the work of John Burke, who wrote Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty, he did a whole book, basically like 10 or 15 years of research, going around to other ancient sites with magnetometers, working out where the magnetism was the strongest, there was anomalies. And he eventually concluded that these were the places where the ancient people would place their seeds and grains, and that this magnetism and telluric currents would charge it up. And so, and he did tests in labs and everything as well. And when you then go and plant the seeds and grains, that you get a much higher yield, higher quality crop, frost resistant and things like this.
Wow.
This was all published. It's all like scientifically documented, and it's been proven by other people doing tests as well. So many of these sites, these ancient sites, even the pyramids, what they were doing, they were creating, like, as you mentioned, this fertilizing kind of energy to enhance their agriculture.
Right.
And if you go back to Göbekli Tepe, right, so this was 9,600 BC. They were doing that here. So I postulate, hypothesize, speculate, whatever you want to call it, that it's known that agriculture developed in that immediate area within 200 years of Göbekli Tepe being built. And the agricultural revolution went boom, it started happening. People were growing food everywhere, bringing their seeds around, sharing them, planting them, getting good yields and things like this. It's a very fertile kind of area at the time. And so did they have some kind of understanding of how to enhance their seeds and grains at Göbekli Tepe to then go and do this effectively? So that's another thing we're looking into now, but hard to prove, can't find much data to back it up. But the fact is there is a major spiraling magnetic anomaly right at the heart of the main enclosure at Göbekli Tepe. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Huh. And who found this?
This was Pablo de Bertolis of Trieste University. And it's in a paper, it's published. You can see it online.
Can you find it, Steve?
Yeah, we mentioned it in our little book. We're going to do a big thing about it in the next book, for sure, because we think it's really intriguing. And the other problem, I want to get inside these sites. So I'm reaching out to the archaeologists here. Let me in the sites with a magnetometer. Let's see what else we've got, because if that's really interesting, and it's scientific. It's not like we're just making it up. This was published.
How do you spell his name? What about just
put Acoustics, Pablo de Bertolis, yeah.
Acoustics.
That might come up. But yeah, so this is just one of the things. I mean, because there are definitely acoustics occurring at these sites. This is something Andrew Collins, he's a good friend of mine. He's done a lot of research on the fact that these are kind of elliptical in shape. So these are very specific acoustic properties when you have elliptical enclosures and closed structures, going around surrounding you. And so he found out that, this guy here, Pablo de Bertolis, that you might want to look at, go back to my lecture, because it's actually in that. It might be easier. It might be under
this one right here?
No, it's not that, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's there. It's definitely online. I mean, I downloaded.
Are there any other places that they found these besides the Göbekli Tepe?
Oh, all over the world. Loads of sites. Loads of British stone circles.
Wow.
Even the mound culture sites of America. There's things that were found at the pyramids to do with ions. I think you were mentioning that earlier, like the ions being collected. Even the stone chambers of New England.
Electrons. Yeah. And he called it a solid state electron harvester.
If you can get hold of a copy of John Burke's book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty, it's an absolute superb superb piece
Seed
of work.
of Knowledge.
Stone of Plenty, yeah.
Okay.
Seed of Knowledge. I think it's not. I think he died, unfortunately, and the book went out of print, but you can get copies of it. But it's mind blowing. This is it here. It's unbelievable. He does. This was before Göbekli Tepe, so he didn't mention it in there. But his research can be applied,
Right.
I think, to that area very much so, because you've got earthquake zones as well. You mentioned like, creating this earthquake kind of thing, the pyramid, right? You've got a whole, like, when the earthquake happened a couple of years ago, it was felt at Göbekli Tepe, very slightly, but it was felt there.
Yeah,
in fact,
that earthquake was devastating.
In fact, in Şanlıurfa, the nearest town, nearest city to Göbekli Tepe, something fell off this bell tower or something, because it shook it slightly. The main part was in Gaziantep, which is 100 miles away or so.
Yeah,
and but this, and it was also felt at Karahan Tepe as well. So some people are now, I'm speculating as well, based upon his work, that just even the subtle earthquake kind of zones, you can, where you got, stone rubbing together deep under the ground with these balls of light, that could also be enhanced and manipulated to enhance seeds and grains, according to John Berg.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you're getting all this electric energy coming up, things like this electric charge. And I find that really intriguing. And I think
that's fascinating.
It fits in with Chris Dunn's theories as well, very much so. On the pyramid.
Wow.
So it's all happening. I mean,
cool.
and this is obviously long before the pyramids, technically, officially.
Right.
Even though people say they're
who knows
older.
how old they are.
Yeah. People say they're much older. And but there's other innovations. I could just waffle on about this. There's other innovations that have been recorded in southeast Turkey, which one of them is air conditioning. The first ever air conditioning, which I hugely appreciate, was discovered at a site called Novali Chori. So what happened here is that this was about 8,300 BC, so it was 1,000 so years after Göbekli Tepe. It's now being flooded, the whole area's gone, but this was researched by Harold Hauptmann, Klaus Schmidt and others back in the 1980s, going into the 90s. And they found not only these sort of square enclosures there with the terrazzo floor and these amazing statues, but they also found some of the live-in structures where people lived. Some of them were like 16 meters long or 40 feet long and so forth. But what they found it was next to what's called the Kantara stream, which was a tributary of the Euphrates River, one of the rivers of paradise of the Bible. And they found that there were channels carved out under this house throughout, all the way along it, all these different channels, and it would allow, with little sluice gates and things like this, very cold water to come in from the stream on hot days, and let them in there. Then they would open up the floor part, and the cool air would cool down the environment they're in, so they could live comfortably in very hot weather.
No way.
Yeah, it's very classy. And another site called Cheanu, which is further north near Diyarbakir, where they possibly did these sacrifices, they found underfloor of the domestic structures, underfloor channels carved out between them, but this was for cool air to be blown, to flow in and out from. So, and then they would have areas where they come up into the structure. So that one was air.
So the water would cool the air?
Well, in Novali Churi, there's no evidence for the water going through the ones at Cheanu, but the cool air they think they may have been used for storage, but the Novali Churi one's fascinating.
Yeah.
Little details like that are just mentioned in the occasional academic text from 1983. And to me, it's like, oh my God. That is like innovation heaven. That is so useful as well.
Yeah.
If you're boiling to death, 100-degree heat and things like this. So little things like that really get me. Plus you got the fact that they found calcium oxalate in some of the kind of big stone bowls at Göbekli Tepe, which is a byproduct of brewing beer. So they were brewing very low alcohol beer. This is just from probably accidental fermentation of barley and other substances. And but they had an alcoholic beverage. It was more like a gruel, and it probably wasn't very tasty. It's probably like you have to chew on it. And but still, they had alcohol back then, and they were possibly brewing it back then. They found that at Natufian sites as well. There's even evidence up in a site called Kortik Tepe, which is actually a bit older than Göbekli Tepe. That's further northeast. There's a whole series of sites that along the Tigris River. which is, you know, a couple of 100 miles, 300 miles to the northeast. But this, they found possible evidence of wine production going back again to about 10,000 years ago, maybe even older, maybe 11,000, 12,000.